part won't probably be as clean, as crisp, as great as prone feels, and try and move those pieces around. This may be easiest to do without skis. If you feel confident, you can do it with skis.
10 minutes! 10 more minutes! Cheers, boys.
Biathlon is skiing and shooting put together. So you do come in from a ski loop, you shoot 5 shots, you take a penalty for whatever you've missed, you ski another loop, and then at the end of this series, you repeat a couple times depending on the race, and the fastest time wins.
And we ski anywhere from 7.5K to 15K total, and we have between two or 4 shooting stages with prone, lying down, or standing.
So biathlon is the most watched winter sport in all of Europe, but it's a different experience to go over there and race in a sport that is very beloved and very, very popular than it is to be here and continually explaining that it is not swimming and running, and that it is not a sport that you made up. It is actually a Winter Olympic sport and one of the older ones.
Half the time it ends up coming off, and I have to redo it anyway.
Yeah.
So do some people, after they get situated, then hook it up?
Some people do, and that's totally fine. If you practice it a while and you're like, this is not working for me, you can hook it when you hook down.
Okay.
But it does take a little bit of learning to get that pressure, hands up, and pulling.
I debuted internationally probably January of 2016. I went to my first Olympic Games in February of 2018.
And here comes Joanne Reid from Team USA, just seconds away from the finish, giving everything she has to this race here in...
People who ski in college, they basically decide, do I quit now or do I go pro? There's not really another path there. You can't really casually do professional cross-country skiing. So I chose that I didn't want to do that. But I did want to try this crazy new thing that I'd heard of, which was not new at all. But I did want to try biathlon. So I ended up with this rifle from my grandfather, and I had been slowly introduced to this sport from my friends, and I decided that I wanted to go try and do it.
Yeah. So this is the firmness point that you're gonna want. That is the hand position that Ethan designed this thing for.
Okay. I feel pretty good about the clinic. This is actually the first one I've ever run solo in terms of shooting. So it was a little bit different of an experience for me to be in the leadership role of that.
Crazy work on different levels of standing, but I want us to try and do a natural point of aim in standing as well.
So that was new, that was different, but I think it went very successfully.
Throw it this way, which people do. I don't know where they I was having a lot of trouble in standing 2 years ago, and my teammate was like, just count to 5 as you shoot your shots. She's like, start from the very beginning and just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Try leaving the elbow and moving the hips back. It's a good drill to just like force yourself, even if it's not perfect. There you go. If you just kind of pulled a little bit at the end. I'm a little excited.
So
my name is Anna French. I live in Bozeman, Montana, and I am a 4th-year PhD student studying freshwater ecology at Montana State University. I started actually during the pandemic. In 2020, in the summer, I kind of started picking up the rifle and shooting a little bit.
Do you do your sight covers when you're skiing, or do you do that on the mat?
I do it on the mat because we're not really supposed to get preemptively ready.
You know, I'd never heard of something that was like, you know, a women's only biathlon clinic. And I wanted to be a part of it. I thought it was like a really cool opportunity to connect with people who are also, you know, women and kind of learning the sport, and be able to just kind of have just like a really fun event.
So yeah, I thought that was really good.
yeah,
You're bolting super smooth.
Thank you.
And I could tell that you had really good rhythm in like your breathing, like it's very consistent.
There, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
We would have a thing right here that I would hit. Or back here. No, I think it'd be right here.
You do have them then.
But not with this.
I'm Joan Wilder. I'm an occupational therapist and a former 2-time Olympian in the sport of biathlon. Neighbor down the street was from Norway. He got all the kids in the neighborhood skis. So one Christmas I got a pair of wooden skis behind the curtains, and I'd just go shuffle off in the woods behind the house.
So you take up the whole space, so that your tip this time was right here. Last time you were over a little bit down.
I was really impressed with all the women from, some are very experienced, some are trying it for the first time, different ages, different interests, but everybody there with compassion and support and doing something. I mean, what sport is, it's doing something that you love.
A different shift on the weight on your feet. So
Yes.
that's the key, right? And so as you shift back just a little bit and you ground yourself down.
This clinic has become very important to me. It was cool to see like the little kids get really excited about putting on glitter and doing relays, and just kind of like reminded me what's fun about the sport.
Yep. I don't miss it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Just like the kindness and care and compassion she shows for people, people that she's, just meeting, and then people that she knows really well. Like, she just kind of has this like very funny and optimistic and positive outlook. I really respect and admire her courage to come forward with the US Biathlon stuff.
So my organization, US Biathlon Association, historically actually had difficulties with a specific ski technician. And when I came in, I experienced some of those as well. And it was passed word of mouth from woman to woman that this was kind of an issue, and to avoid him if you could, and maybe employ a buddy system and that sort of thing. I made a social media post at some point. And from there, I had a lot of communications with people, but I think the most important one of those, the thing that most people know, is I ended up talking to the Associated Press, an investigator of the Associated Press, and she wrote an article about it. So I did come forward and file a safe sport complaint, which is the new kind of watchdog organization. In some ways, it does very well at protecting athletes, and in some ways, it has a ways to go. The idea behind it is that you and whoever you may be accusing, or the other way around, however it may be, have a neutral party to do all these interviews and determine whether there was wrongdoing, or whether there wasn't. And at the end, they give you a very, very long paper that is their verdict. So I got a very, very long paper at the end of this. It was something like 250 pages or something of all the interviews. And a verdict, and it was a 6-month suspension, and that was it. The organization didn't say anything, the administration didn't say anything, there was just nothing. The implication is that they do not care. That they do not care that it happened, and or they don't care that it might happen again. And until there is accountability, then I do have that rage against the administration and the organization, because if you're not taking accountability for a problem, then does that make it my fault then that it happened? Was it a singular incident? And if it was a singular incident, like, what kind of environment were you creating? We needed to complain more, we needed to write in more, we needed to get rid of the response, like whatever that may be, more needed to be done. And that's part of how this clinic was born.
In regards to abuse while I was on the U.S. Biathlon team, it's funny, I've talked about it a lot. I think maybe it's just this event. It's a lot, and it's a lot to keep pushing yourself through it and be like, I've got this, I got to share my story. 1989, I was on Team 89 to 94, so that's when all these events happened. It was at a camp, and, you know, I had gone to bed and, you know, woke up with him on my back, you know, and I did what I needed to do to get him out, and I wasn't sure how he got into the room. I later learned that at a breakfast or at a meal with other athletes later, he boasted about how he got the key from behind the front desk when they weren't looking. And at that point, I was like, you know, it's breaking and entering, it's sexual assault. I should report this. I shared it with staff with Biathlon, who at that point who minimized it and said, it took us years to get the visa. This is too important. And I was new, and that's kind of where it stayed. Could I have done more? Yes. And people say, don't beat yourself up. Like, you were young, you didn't have money, you know, you were in a national team, you know, they were supposed to be looking out for you. That's what the therapist will tell me, but it's okay. I could have done more. I could have gone to the police department. I could have picked up the phone and 911 and said, hey, I was just sexually assaulted. So that's real. And had I done that, then these things wouldn't continue. Hopefully, or at least there would have been more eyes on it. There would have been more talk about it. There would have been more effort to make sure it didn't happen again. And I didn't do that. And I'm okay with saying that I didn't. And I'm vulnerable for that. And I want to apologize to the women who this did happen in the future. We all need to be vulnerable. And we all need to say, this has got to stop. We all need, every single person from your youth to your master skier, to your recreation, everyone needs to participate in these sports knowing that it's safe and that they're valued. And that's why I'm doing this. And so, as a person, I feel like I'm strong. I feel like I've made mistakes. I'm coming forward now. I'll work with people. I'll probably end up in court, who knows? But we can change this.
The second article actually came out while I was competing in Europe. And I think it was challenging for me to sort of have this understanding of kind of what had been happening and, what would have been, happening for a while. Problems within our organization that I would really love to see fully addressed and handled really well, because I think it just is important for those of us that are then, you know, like competing, you know, to be able to say like, yeah, you know, like this is an organization that like, you know, even with flaws, like things have changed, and I can feel like, you know, like 100% like, you know, like this is something that like, you know, I'm really proud to be a part of.
I think it is very important to trust yourself and your gut feeling. If it feels like something's wrong, it is probably correct. And that runs true for like so many different circumstances. And if I go back and just tell myself to trust myself more, I think that would have been very helpful. Maybe.
Three, two, one.
Go to tryouts, man. I hope she does, and I hope she does it with just because she loves it, and that she's got enough support there to do that again. If she chooses not to, that's all right. You know, I don't want to put pressure on anybody, but you know, there's just people who make a difference in the world. You'll come across them. She just seems to be one of those people that can do that.
The women at this clinic have taught me that what we're all here for at the end of the day is love of playing outside and love of being with people who also like to play outside. It doesn't really matter what we're doing, and it doesn't really matter what we're learning. That is an experience that is awesome.
Will I ever participate and be part of the biathlon community going forward? It's funny, I haven't even asked myself that question until I got here, because the answer was pretty much no, a hard no for a long time. And it, you know, that's running from pain, because I certainly still love the sport. I love the ski, shooting's fun. I think I need more deep breaths. I think it's a time thing, and this is part of that process. And I hope it goes the way I hope that I made myself vulnerable and others have, so that we can all move forward and we can all participate if we want to and we choose to, and feel safe.
Everybody say clean!
Clean! Now go crazy!
Albanese chocolate covered gummy bears, and this is very important to me because I have always loved chocolate covered gummy bears. This is probably my next social crusade. I would say it's like the second most important thing here. Yeah, the commercialization of chocolate covered gummy bears, especially in this economy.